Welcome everybody, it's Debbie O'Neill of Scribing Quick Designs, and today I'm going to be working on the Diamond Press Celebration Lantern die set. I'm going to go step by step to show you what you need to do to create your own lantern using this die set. Now this was sold on HSN as an auto ship, so this is the basic set that you would have gotten on HSN, and this one is the celebration set. So everything on here has to do with celebration, like birthdays or other things you might be celebrating. And then throughout the year there's 3 other sets that will come, which will be the inserts that go into this basic set, so it changes up. So there's a fall Halloween one, there's a Christmas one, and then there's, I think, like a summertime one. So so the basic things I'm going to show you how to do, you'll use the same principles when you get the new sets, okay, if you order the auto ship. Now this particular set is very cool. It has a lot of different elements to it, and of course it comes with the Celebration Lantern instruction sheet, which Diamond Press is known for their instruction sheet. So some of you like written directions, so you can get these out of your set, and it says, number 1, place desired window dies into the openings. I'm going to show you how to do that so there's no confusion. The sheet tells you how many pieces of each to cut, and then it also gives you ideas for other options. And then it goes into the instructions on how to assemble. So it tells you where to glue, it tells you how to attach things. So it's very detailed. So if you need that, you'll have that in the instruction set to refer back to. Okay, now this set comes with a lot of great other images besides just creating the lantern piece, and you can, of course, change things out to make your lantern look different, and you can also use these shapes to decorate your lantern with, and you can also use them maybe to make cards or something, because they have some great images here. So the first thing you're going to need, of course, is your lantern set, and you will need the Grand Marquee. You'll need the Grand Marquee machine, because that, or you need a other type of die cut machine that will fit the width of the folders. So you'll need one of the large Grand Marquee folders if you're using the Grand Marquee, which is a Diamond Press product, or you'll use whatever stack of folders you would need for whatever die cut machine you're using. Okay, so you'll need those. You'll also need some vellum if you want to add a soft element to the inside of your lanterns. This is optional. You don't have to have vellum, but you're going to see me using the vellum as I create today. But vellum is optional, but that gives it a nice soft glow. When you add any type of battery operated lights inside your lantern, it just gives it a nice glow. And then you're going to need whatever color cardstock you want to create your lantern out of. Okay, so I'm going to be using this light lilac color, and I'm making this lantern for my granddaughter's birthday, and she loves purple, so everything I'm going to be using are going to be shades of purple. And I also am going to strengthen this lantern by also layering a just white cardstock in between the layers, so that it gives it a little more stability. This is completely optional. You don't have to do this step if you don't want to, but if you're just going to use it just as a one-time decoration, then I just cut it out the normal way. If you want to make it so it's something you're going to use again and again, I definitely recommend that you are going to cut some of the panels, and I'll show you that here in a minute, out of white cardstock and out of the colored cardstock that you pick. All right, so other things you're going to need, it will be helpful and handy as we work with those dies, because there's a lot of intricate pieces on them, to have some type of a pen or pick tool, or to have one of the two-in-one tools. Now I know Diamond Press just came out with their own tool set, which is phenomenal. This is just what I already had in my stash, so that's what I'll be using today. And but if you ordered the Diamond Press tool set, then you want to use their tools, because they're fantastic, I'm sure. just like you'll need a pencil. If you're going to be using the vellum, you'll need a pencil, and you will need some type of liquid glue is what I recommend. Now, I like the art glitter glue. If you prefer the Barely Art glue, that's fine too, but you want a quick drying, clear drying liquid glue, and you want one with the fine tip on it. So this has a metal tip you put on the bottle, and so it gives you just the right amount of glue that comes out. So that's what I recommend for the adhesive. And then you'll also need some type of washi tape to be able to hold the pieces in place. So this is just some washi tape I had in my stash. And the pieces that we're going to be using to create the lantern, let me get it. Now, I use the Diamond Press Grand Marquis folders to store my dies in, and also the Diamond Press, this is their magnetic board to hold my dies in place, so I'm not losing anything, which is great. We're going to need this piece, which is the rectangle. We're also going to need this shape, which is the one with the banners on it, that is the insert for this. Let me move this down here so you can see that a little better. And so we're going to need these two pieces. And I will be using this piece as an optional door for the front of my lantern. You can make the lantern with 4 pieces of the same set if you want, or you can change it up. So you'll see me using this. And then let's see, we need the triangle piece, which is this shape, and we will need, I'm going to be using this insert for my lantern. Now there's other pieces that come with this set that you can decide if you want to switch those out for anything to do this, but that's what we're going to need to get started. I'm going to set that off to the side. And then the first thing we need to do is we're going to need, let me put some of this behind there so you can see it a little better. Okay, so you will want to take your 2 lantern shapes, and we want to flip them over so they're taped the right direction. All right, so this is the rectangle shape. You want to flip it over so the die cutting part, the raised, is facing down, and then you want to take the insert, whatever insert that you want to use, and you're going to flip that over so that it is facing, the cutting part is facing down. And you want to center that onto, let me turn this way. You want to center that where you want it within your outside die. Okay, so I'm trying to even it up a little bit as best I can, like that. So these are going to be tabs down at the bottom and here. Make sure that when you put your insert image in to cut your lantern sides out, that you have this in the correct direction. Okay, so I'm using the banner piece, so I know that when I cut this, I want my banner to be in the correct direction and not flipped over. So you want to make sure that you do that. And then I'm going to take a piece of the washi tape and I'm going to tape it across the side of the insert piece and the side of the outside piece, like that. I'm going to do that in a couple of spots on here. Okay, we're doing this so that your panels that you cut will all be exactly the same. If you didn't tape it and you were trying to eyeball it all the time, that's going to get a little more difficult. And I'm going to use my scissors. I recommend you have a pair of scissors handy, and also maybe even your paper trimmer would be handy as well when we go to work with the panels. Okay, so I've got that. I'm going to do the same thing with my rectangle piece. There again, I'm going to flip the die over. That's the outside part of the rectangle. My tab is on the bottom and along the left side if you're facing it. And then I'm using the little stars and dots insert piece, so I'm going to do that here. And then I'm going to take the washi tape and do the same thing. I want to make sure that this is going to stay in the same position when I use it on all of my sheets. Okay, there we go. That's easy enough, right? And then I'm just going to trim that up so it doesn't stick to my paper all the time. Okay, so now that we've got that, the next thing you want to do is you want to get out whatever cardstock that you want to use. And so I am going to be using the lilac cardstock. And I need my folder. And we're going to cut out the first of our outside shape. So you want to cut a piece. I cut the rectangle bottom pieces. You'll need 4 of these. And I cut them 5.5 by 8 inches so that this fits there nicely on it. I'm going to open up my folder, my diamond press folder for my Grand Marquis. And I also am going to use tape this down a little bit just so it doesn't slide around. Okay. And then I'm going to run this through. All right. Now you're going to make 4 of these panels for your sides for your lantern. Move this here out of the way. Alright, now let's see what we have here. I'm going to show you this first one. I'm not going to do this painstakingly through all of them, but I wanted to show you the process so that as you're doing it yourself, you know what to expect. So we're going to flip this over and we're going to pull out our piece, and this is our first panel that we're going to be using for our lantern. So you're going to cut 4 of these. Now, what I wanted to show you was this, of course, there's inserts in here where it cut this, this out, and what happens is it gets stuck in your die. All right. So this tool is super handy to be able to run it through here to get all of those out. Okay. We just want to be careful about not losing our place. And so you're going to need to poke these out, okay, because you want to make sure that that doesn't build up in your die. Now, depending upon which tools you're using for this, I also use my, this is a pen weeding tool, because I found that these little pieces here were incredibly hard to get out if I didn't grab them with my pen tool. So that is just a tip for you. So we're going to need to remove all of these, and you'll need to make 4 of these. So this will take you a little bit to get this done. So I'm going to go through and pull all these out, and then so you're going to make 4 of these panels, and then you're going to make 4 of the rectangle panels. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and we will be back in a minute and I will show you the next step. Okay, so what I wanted to tell you was that if you wanted to make the opening in your lantern instead of just having all the sides like this, you can, I made 3 of these for my lantern, and I made this one for my opening into my lantern because I'm going to turn mine into a fairy garden. So if you wanted to make this, I wanted to show you what I did. So I used the base die for the rectangle for the bottom, and we're just going to roll this through. And you're going to need pencil, so you want to grab that, and a pair of fine point scissors, because we're going to have to do a little bit of fussy cutting to make this happen. Okay, so we've got the basic shape. Set this to the side, and then you want to take this piece from the die set and get a piece of cardstock that it coordinates with your base that you have cut out. So I'm using this kind of, I don't know what color you would call this. It's purple, but it's got a little more pink in it than purple, just for some contrast with my lilac color. So I'm going to roll this through. Okay. I'm going to set this off to the side. Now what I want you to do is lay your piece down, and you're going to take a pencil, and I'm just going to draw around the inside, holding that die down onto the shape we cut out. Okay, can you guys see that? And then I'm going to, X-Acto knife is another good thing to have. I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to get it started. So I am just on my self-healing mat that I have on my desk. This makes it so much easier. If you don't, that's fine. You can just stick a hole in the center of your paper here if you want it. You could just, you know, put your scissors in and slice it, and then you could cut from there. I just think having the X-Acto knife to cut it just helps me a little bit, and it makes it more precision. And then I'm going to take my fine tip scissors, and I'm going to cut up to the edge of where I drew that pencil line. Okay, and then I'm just going to start trimming around that line all the way around to create the opening for this trim. And then we're going to do the same thing on our base piece to create the door. I mean the window, or whatever you want to call it. It's not a door, it's a window, I guess. And I'm just going to trim. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. You can always trim it up a little bit as you need to. Okay, and if you see any of your pencil lines, you can go back in and use your eraser. And if something doesn't look quite trim enough or sharp enough, or you've got a little bit of an edge there, just use your scissors to even that up. So this is going to be the trim that goes around our opening. And now we want to take this die again, and we're going to lay it. Now remember, on this piece you have your score marks here that you're going to fold on this side and this side to make the tab, and to, you know, attach everything. But for this, we're actually going to trim this off, so we're not going to worry about that. So when you go to lay this on here, make sure you are above where the line is and you are within the tab mark over here. So you want to lay that on, and then there again, we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to take our pencil and draw around. And I'm going to use this one. I'll show you. I just use my scissors to poke into the paper, and then I'll make a few. It just makes it makes the paper loosen up a little, so it's easier to trim it. So, ta-da! All right, so then we're going to just come over here and do the same thing, where we're just going to go over to where that pencil line is and trim along the pencil line. Like so. Okay, so now we have the opening here, and there again it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be putting this over it. You just want to make sure that there's nothing hanging down around the edge. I kind of got off my pencil mark here. Okay, so that'll work. And now we're going to trim this. So you can use your bigger scissors or you can use a paper trimmer, but we're going to trim right along where the score mark is and trim this off. Okay, same thing on that bottom tab. Now I'm doing this because I am reinforcing mine. If you're not reinforcing yours, you don't want to trim it, but I am going to add mine to a piece of white cardstock that I cut, and I'm just going to glue this to the front of it. Okay, and then I'm going to glue this onto the front of that, and then I will have to cut out this. I'll have to make another cut on my white cardstock. Okay, so because I'm making mine reinforced, so I've got a piece of, there's the trim, this is the background for the lantern, and then I have mounted it on a piece of the white cardstock that I cut, and then I also cut out the inside. Okay, so this is what creates the opening if you want to do like the fairy lantern or put anything inside your lantern that people can see. That's how you would do that. Oh, I wanted to show you, let me move this out of the way. Okay, so I wanted to show you, this is what you would end up with if you're just making it out of one layer of cardstock. You'd have 4 of these in my left hand, the base of the lantern, and you have 4 of these. Now, I told you that I'm going to make mine more sturdy, so I want to show you how I did that in case you want to do the same thing. And that would mean that you cut out a white piece of cardstock or whatever color cardstock you want to add a little more reinforcement to this. Okay, so it's a little sturdier than just a plain piece of cardstock. So that's what I've done here, is I've got a piece of cardstock that I cut out same shape, and then the same thing on the triangle piece that's the top of the lantern. Now I have decided I would like to add vellum to the inside of my lantern just because I think it gives a nice soft glow, and because if you're going to not do the door or the opening like this and you have all 4 sides, you would just add vellum to all of these. Okay, all 4 of them. I'm only going to add it to 3 because I'm going to leave my opening open instead of adding vellum on top of that. And then what you would do for each of these shapes, and I'll show you how I did the triangle because I know that's a little trickier. So I cut the vellum rectangles are 4 inches across by 6.5, and this is just plain white vellum. So I cut 3 of these. So I've got 3 of those for my 3 pieces, and then I also cut out the rectangle. And how did I do the rectangle to cut the vellum? Because that's a little trickier. And what I did was I took the piece here, this is a piece of the vellum here where my finger is, and this is about 6.5 by 7. Okay, and I was able to take a piece of vellum and then lay my piece on here and do it like a template. I lined it up along the top edge over from corner to the top edge here, and I took my pencil and I drew a line. Then I flipped it around and laid it here and drew around that one. Then I flipped it around on the vellum again, lining it up from the corner to the edge, and drew another line. And then out of that same piece I could lay another one down here and get the 4 and draw the line, and then I just use my scissors and cut this. Okay, so there's no rocket science going on here. It's just simple, easy to do. And I just am going to cut them part here. And then you have vellum to put on the inside of your rectangle piece. Okay. So that worked out really well, and I just wanted to show you how I did that in case somebody was having trouble. All right, now the other thing we're going to do, I'm going to show you, is that because we're going to mount these on another piece of cardstock, I'm actually going to trim this and lay it over here and glue it onto the white. I don't want to glue them back to back because that makes a lot of bulk when you fold this, and I've decided that I would just like this to be a trim piece basically. And so there again, I'm just going to take my scissors. You can use a paper trimmer if you want, but I'm just going to cut along the scoring line on my colored, whatever color cardstock you're using. I'm doing it along the bottom edge. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing for the rectangle. I want to cut off this part. So I'm just cutting it along where the trim is, the score mark. Okay, and then I'm going to flip this over. We'll start with the triangle first. I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to glue my sheet of vellum over where the holes are on this. Okay, so let me get my glue out, and it doesn't take much, and I'm actually just going to put it on the cardstock right along the edge of where those design cutouts are. So whether you're using this one or another one and you want to add the vellum to it, same principle. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of glue. And I am using the glitter art glue with the precision tip. I recommend the precision tip because it gives you such great control for this. Or you can use like the Barely Arts Barely Arts Precision Craft Glue is also another really good one because it dries clear and it's easy, and they have the precision tips. So I'm just going to lay this over this. Okay. And then I'm going to take that piece and I'm going to now glue this on top of my base, making sure that I line up where all the holes are when I go to glue it on. Okay, so I'm just going to do that real quick to show you. And then we're going to repeat that for all the pieces that we wanted to reinforce and add the vellum. All right. Now, if you wanted to just add the vellum and not have the reinforced piece, you'd do the same thing. You just wouldn't trim it. And I'm going to add a little bit of the glue here where there's not any holes, just to make sure that it stays down well. And then I'm going to line it up. Okay. I'm going to do the exact same thing for all of the pieces. And if you have a brayer, this is a great time to pull your brayer out. And I'm just going to make sure it's stuck on there really well. Okay, so that's what you're going to do if you want to add the vellum and have the reinforced backing. So we're going to do that for all the pieces, all the triangles pieces, and all of the pieces that are for the base part of the lantern. And you just have the same thing. This is a piece of vellum that I cut, and this vellum is 4 by 6.5, and I just cut 3 of these, and I'm going to glue them, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. So that's how I did it to reinforce the sides and add the vellum. Okay, now the instructions say to then take this square that's part of the die set, and you're going to cut out 2 pieces of your cardstock that matches your lantern. And I just wanted to let you know, so I cut out my 2 colored pieces, but I also cut out a piece of the white and then glued it to one of the squares of my cardstock, so that it just adds since I'm continuing to make it more durable. We are on step 3 if you're following along in the instruction guide. Here where it's showing you how to adhere the top piece to the bottom piece of your lantern sides. So all you have to do is add your glue to the bottom of your triangle here, and then line this up like so, making sure you're matching your edges as well as you can, and then press down, and then I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to press the back. Okay, so now we have this piece of here. Now if you continue to follow along with the directions, I wanted to talk to you for a second about how you intend to use your lantern. Okay, because if you follow along in the directions, we're going to put the lantern together pretty similar, except when you get to the end, if you follow the directions in step 6, you will have created a closed system. So the bottom will be closed and the top will be closed. And then how are you supposed to add a light to it? That's what, as I start working through the process in the instructions, I'm like, well, if I glue all the sides, I've glued the bottom and I've glued all the top, how do I get my light source into it? Because it's a lantern, so I would like to be able to use it as a lantern and have a light source in it. So at this point where it's at step 6, there's two ways to do this, guys. So if you have created all 4 of the solid sides and then you have the 4 of the top sides, you could do one of 2 things. So we've got this. I'm just going to give you an example, all right? Because I have put together a million different 3D projects, paper projects before, and that's why I always want to think through the steps before I start adhering. And that's when I figured out I wasn't going to be able to put a light source in my lantern if I followed the directions exactly. Okay, so you have your 4 pieces now that we've glued the tops to the bottoms, and then you have your 2 pieces of square that we cut out, because this is going to create the bottom of your lantern, and normally we would glue all these together, and then you would fold up the sides and glue the sides, right? However, if you would like to add a light source, you can skip gluing this to the bottom, skip gluing this to the squares if you want, and you would just glue all of your sides together. You would cut the bottom off of here. Okay, so you would cut the bottom off of here, and then you would just glue your sides together and then follow along with the directions to go ahead and glue all the sides. Okay, then that would create an opening on the bottom that you could slip your lantern over your candle. Okay, your battery operated candle. Please don't use a real candle with paper. So if you wanted to place it over a light source, that's how you would do that. So you would trim the bottom edge of this tab on the bottom, because we're not going to attach it to a base. If the other way to do it would be, we're going to follow the directions just like it says up to a point, and we will attach it to our base, and then when we go to fold the tops together, we're only going to glue 3 of these together, and we're going to leave 1 of them unglued, and then we're going to use string at the top through the holes at the top, that way you would have 1 panel that, you need to go ahead and fold this, that would open so you could slip a candle down inside of it. Okay, so think how you might want to use your lantern before you start gluing it. Now, I am creating a fairy garden scene, so that's why one of my panels has the opening. So I'm going to go ahead and make a closed system, so the bottom's closed and my top's closed, because I'm going to be able to add my fairy lights in through my opening. Okay, because I'm going to use battery operated fairy lights inside mine. However, if you are thinking you're just going to use, you know, like a nice candle and you want to slip it over, don't put the bottom on it, or do it so you're going to leave one of the sides unglued so you'll be able to fold it open and slip your candle into it. So that is a tip for you. You guys figure out which way works best and what kind of light source you're going to think you're going to use in your candle. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and follow the directions because it works for what I'm doing since I have an opening. Okay, so I'm going to take my base. This is the base that I created, the square, and then I added that white piece of cardstock to give it more stability. And basically we're going to lay out our 4 pieces here along the edge, and I do recommend you go ahead and fold along your creases here. So let's do that. Okay, that'll make it a little easier to fold. And I just noticed I've got a little something here. There we go. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and adhere this just like it shows in your directions, where you're going to put it on a base. Okay, so we're going to take the base. I'm flipping mine over because I've added that white piece of cardstock to give it some more stability, and then you're going to lay out just like it shows in your directions. You're going to lay out it along the edge of your square and where your tab is. Okay, so I'll show you that in a second, but kind of figure out, let's see, I'm going to do mine this way, I think. And so we're going to be doing this, all right. And mine looks white flipped over because I used the white cardstock core. And then I have another piece of that, the other part of the colored cardstock, and we're going to put that in the, when we glue this together, we'll add this to the center so that it gives a nice finish to it. Okay, so we want to add our glue along the tab here on the bottom. Okay, so we're going to do that. And it doesn't matter which piece you start with, but you want a fairly good amount of glue, and then I'm going to line it up. I'm going to flip mine over and I'm going to line up the square. So I put the glue on the tab and then I added my square on top of it. It just makes it easier to line it up, and I'm going to do that for all of these. Okay, so I'm going to add my glue. I just find this easier to do it than to lay them on top and try to get it lined up. Okay, so we're going to add this. Make sure I'm got it lined up squarely with that as much as I can. Okay. We're going to keep doing that on all of the sides. All 4 of these pieces on that bottom tab. So we've got all of our flaps on. I'm going to flip it over and I want to make sure it's all adhered well, like so. Okay, and then I'm going to take that other piece of the cardstock that I cut, and it's going to go here, and it just kind of covers the bottom of the lantern and just makes it a little more finished. I'm going to get it pretty well glued here, so I'm going to add a little bit around there, And then I'm going to add it to the center and line it up and press it down. We're going to glue. Let's lay it out so it's flat like this, and you guys follow along with me. So you want to take the flap to your right on the right piece, this right arm, I guess you would say, and we're going to add glue to the tab. You want a pretty good amount on there. And then we're going to take that and line it up with the side of the flap in front of it. Let me get that on there. Now I like to push it, make sure I'm lining up the edges. See how I've folded it over, and I'm pushing it down to make sure that the edges are matching up, and then I'm pushing it down on the inside of the lantern here so that everything stays squared up, and this gets adhered fairly well. Now I usually like to let this dry for a second before I move on to gluing all the four sides together. So we're starting with the rectangle base of the lantern, and we're gluing all of those sides together and making sure that it matches up. If you get off a little bit, don't worry about it. We're going to cover that up at the end with some trim. So now that we've got our sides glued together, then we have our top remaining. This is where I wanted to show you when I was talking about a closed system. So if you added the bottom and then you had the four sides that were all solid, and then you have the four triangles at the top, right? That if you follow the directions and you glued these four together at the top, you would have no way to put your light into it. Okay, that's why I was saying you can either skip the bottom, putting the bottom on, and just glue the sides and the top, and then you could set it down on top of your light source. Or if you've done it to this point and you know you're going to want to add a light to it, what I recommend is that you leave, if you're going to, you know, like a battery powered light, that you only glue 3 of these sides together and you leave one of them open. So you would be able to fold this over and be able to stick a light inside your lantern, and then put this back up, and then tie it with some ribbon, or just, it probably should just sit right in there, so that you have an opening. Okay, so that was what I was talking about. It's a closed system if you glue the whole thing shut. Now, of course, with my lantern, I made the door or the window opening because I'm going to add stuff inside, and I'm going to use fairy lights inside, so I don't necessarily need to have this open and closed. So you decide how you want to do yours, but that's what I was showing you the differences earlier before you started gluing everything together. Think about it. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and glue the tops to mine closed, and I'm just going to do that just as if you were following the directions, where we're going to add the glue to the tab and then fold this over and match that up, and then let that dry, and then I'll be back to show you how I'm going to do the inside of mine if you want to follow along to make a little scene inside of your lantern. If not, you'll be good to go and can move forward with using your lantern. So let's do this. We're going to put glue on the tabs, and we're going to fold all of these up. Okay, now if you did add the vellum behind, at the top here, if you decide you want to add the bow, because on the instructions it shows you that you could you know, thread twine or ribbon or something into the top. That's where they're talking here, where there's these holes. And if you added the vellum up to that point, you can always use a paper piercer and stick it through there to keep that hole open if you plan on using that hole. All right. All right, let's get this thing glued together and I will be back. Okay, to cover up the edges of our lantern, because we use the two-layered method basically with the white, it was showing through along the edges, and I apologize, I already covered mine. I thought I had hit record and I didn't, but let me show you what I did so you can do it too. So I cut a 1/2 inch strip of the same color cardstock that I used for the base, and then you can use a scoreboard if you have one, but I found it, because the strip's so small, I found that it was harder to use the scoreboard to score it down the middle at a 1/4 inch. And so what I did was I just folded up it in half, matching the sides of the paper. And I did that, and I made a bunch of these strips, and then I used my bone folder to just kind of sharpen up the edges once I got it folded. Now, you can make these however you prefer to make it. If you can score it on your scoreboard, great. I was just finding I was having trouble with it slipping too much, and the score lines weren't even, and that was not giving me great results. So anyway, so you're just going to do that, and this was just leftover paper from cutting the base shapes of the lantern, and then I'm just using my bone folder to kind of make some nice crisp sharp lines. Okay, so you're going to make a bunch of these strips, all right, and then you want to get some scissors, and I will tell you it was easier to cover the top edge here first. So this I cut at 4 1/4 inches. Okay, so I just measured it and cut it at 4 1/4 inches, and then I was able to, let me see if I have one here that's 4 1/4, or I'll just make one real quick. Okay, so I added my adhesive glue onto the center, and then I lined it up and covered the edge like that, okay, with the glue. And I did that on all 4 sides all the way around. I did that part first, and then I covered the sides, and the sides are, let me see, I wrote it down, they're 6 3/4 inches long, and I just put those on here, and I did that on all 4 sides, and then I did the top edges. And the top edges, same thing, but I measured it, and it was, let's see, this was 6 3/4, and this is 6 1/4, okay? So I cut all the strips and I glued them on, and that finished off the edges of my lantern, so it looks pretty. And so if you are not doing the fairy house on the inside or creating any kind of a scene on the inside, then you're done with your lantern and it's ready to go however you decided to configure yours. And then you can go on to decorate the outside however you want to decorate your house. All right, now I am making a fairy garden inside of mine, and so the next step that we're going to do is we're going to make 2 pieces that are going to go inside. And so these pieces are, let me see, I wrote it down so I told you the right thing. This is 5 1/4 inches, and they're 1 inch strips. So I made 2 of those, 5 1/4 inches long, and they're 1 inch strips. And then I scored it at 1/2 inch on each end. And then we're going to fold those and create tabs. Okay, so I'm just doing 2 inserts in the inside of mine, and you can add more if you want to add more things, but I'm kind of making like a hill, kind of like a, like, you know, like they'd be out in the meadow kind of thing. So those are going to get glued inside your lantern if you're moving on with working on the fairy garden with me. All right, so I'm going to glue the tabs where I've folded them on each side, and I'll show you here in a second. So I've got glue on just the tabs, and then it's going to go in here. I'm going to flip this up. It's going to be hard for you guys to see that. I'll do my best. And I'm going to put one, I'm lining it up on the bottom, and I'll show you here in a minute when I get it in here. One on the bottom, and then I'm gluing it to the side of the, so I'm creating a little bracket basically inside my fairy house, my lantern, to create the fairy house. Let me show you just a second. Okay, so I'm just going to press the sides. The bottom of that 1-inch piece is lined up along the edge. Can you guys see it in there now? Right here. Here, I'll use this as a pointer. It's lined up along the bottom edge, and it's glued on the sides. Alright, so I'm going to add, I'm going to let that sit in here for a minute, and then I want to, let me make sure I've got that on here. And we're going to let this glue, we're going to let this dry for a minute before we add anything else to it. Alright, but I made two, so then this one's going to come, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to set it up closer to the front of the box. Okay, so it's going to go in front of the other one. I'm just going to add some glue here. Do this. Okay, same thing. I'm going to stick it inside here, and I'm going to put it closer to the front of the box, maybe like an inch in. Let me see. Okay, so I'm just doing two of these. Alright, so I've got them inside the box. Can you go here? Let me turn it that way you can see it. Okay, so I've got one here in the back, and then one here and here closer to the front. Okay, so we've got those in. We're going to let these dry. Now in the meantime, we're going to work on some of the embellishments that are going to be used on this, and I will be right back and show you how we're doing that. Okay, so now that we've got our structure together, we want to install our lights. Now I'm using fairy lights, and this is just a strand. I'll link all my supplies that I use in the description of the video in case anybody needs a resource to get things. And so this is just one of those lights. It's got the little switch on it, so it turns the lights on and off. The lights can come in, this is the warm white, or they come in bright white. I like the warm light for putting inside of lanterns better. And then this has a really long string on it. So what I did was I wrapped all that extra line on it, and I just wrapped it with some washi tape to make that a little more compact. I am going to show you how to build a little pocket to put it in on the back here. I've got the dimensions and everything for you. But what I did was I just cut, since I had already closed up the bottom of my lantern, I just took my X-Acto knife and I just made a little hole here, and I threaded through the opening of the light, and then you can just turn it on with the switch. And then I just want to show you on the inside, I used strips of just clear Scotch tape and a pair of scissors, and I just cut it into tiny strips. And then as I place my lights into my box, I just used a little bit of the Scotch tape to hold it in place. I did try gluing it. I've done that before, but it takes forever for it to dry. Plus, it doesn't always hold. So I wanted to make sure that where I put the lights, they stayed where they needed to be. So when I threaded it through here, what I did was I left some of the bulk in the back of this first level. Okay, this level. And then, let me use the tweezers, it'll be easier. So when I pulled it through the hole down here, I left some of the bulk towards the back, and then the rest of it, I lifted my little piece here and I just slid it under it, so then I had the rest of it that I could put towards the front of my lantern, and that worked really well. And I made sure I put some up high so that you saw the lights at the in the top and not just everything down here at the bottom. So once I got that in there, then I've got my lights secured, and let's go ahead and make the little pocket real quick to put on the back of this, just so it cleans it up a little. And it's going to let this sit back here so that your recipient can easily be able to turn their light on. So the measurements for this piece are 4 3/4 this way, and it's 2.75 this way, and then we're going to score it. Now okay, so I'm just gonna, I want the outside color of my pocket to match the color of my lantern. So I want to flip this over, and we're going to start with it in this direction, and we're going to score it at 2 1/4 inches, like so, down the long side. Then we're going to flip it, and we're going to score it at 7/8 and 1 3/8. Okay, and then we're going to score it at 3, and we're going to score it at 3 1/2. Okay, so those are the score lines, and we can set our board out of the way. And then you're going to take this piece, and we're going to cut the tabs. Okay, so we're going to cut it here, and we're going to cut it here. There we go. And then we're going to fold along the score line, so do that. I like to go ahead and pre-fold everything before I start assembling it. Okay, so we're creating a little pocket box. So what you're going to do is we're going to add some adhesive on the back here. Just going to put it like this. Don't put it where the tabs are at the bottom. Okay, and then we're just going to fold the box up so that it's squared up. It's easier if I do it this way. There we go. Alright, so you want to square up your box. Okay, like this. Can you guys see that? So you're going to square up your box, and I'll just apply, while it's open, I'll go ahead and apply a little bit of pressure where I added the glue, just so it sticks well. And then you're going to fold down the little tabs that we cut in, and then you're going to fold the 2 other tabs on this side in, and then we're going to fold the 1 long tab in. Okay, so let's do that again so you don't so you understand what we're doing. So there's the 2 side tabs that we cut, and we're going to fold those in, and then on the back where we have it, where we adhered it together, you're going to fold that tab in, and then you have 1 long tab here left, and the long tab here is where we're going to apply our glue. Okay. And we're just going to hold that. In fact, I'm just going to flip the box over and let gravity take its hold. If you have some craft tweezers, you can just kind of stick it down just to make sure that that sticks really well. Okay, so now we've created a little pocket to put our battery in on the back, and it's just going to slip in here. You want to put it in so that this is where the switch is, sticks up on the top. Okay, So there it is, so you would be able to see it. And then we're just going to, in fact, I actually made a little slit here on the first one that I made. I'm just going to cut with my tweezers, just a little slit for the cord to go through here. And just fold that down, okay? And then that way that little wire can sit there, and then we're going to glue this on to the back of our lantern. So you want to be generous with your glue. Okay, and then we're just going to glue this on like so. And I'm just going to hold this on here. I have it about, I don't know, like about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom of the lantern. And since we have our hole in the front, we can flip it over and be able to apply some pressure to the back just to get that glue to set. And you're just going to do that till it sticks. Make sure it's grabbed it good. Okay, so then you have your little pocket back here, and I may need to add a little more glue, but this way you've got it, so it's cleaned up on the back of it where your little light goes, and then your recipient or you can turn your light on and off really easily, and all that cord and everything's contained. Okay, so that is how I put the lights in. And it looks really pretty. And you can see, since I spread the light so it went up towards the top and everything, I've got good light coverage in my fairy garden house. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to decorate. Since I'm creating a fairy garden inside my lantern, I needed some fairies, right? Now these are stickers they're fairy stickers from Diamond Press. They were sold on HSN, and they did sell out almost immediately. You got 2 sheets of these. They're dimensional. They are the cutest stinking things you've ever seen. They're really well done, and if Diamond Press ever has anything like this again, you should snag them. So I'm using these fairy stickers that I got from Diamond Press, but I'll also link up a couple of places online where you can get fairy printables, so you can print them out on your own inkjet printer. If you want to make this but you didn't get the stickers from Diamond Press, you could still make a fairy lantern. Okay, other thing we're going to be using is, I looked at all the different flower sets that I had from Diamond Press, and believe me, I have a lot of them because I love to make florals on things, on cards and 3D objects. But the one that had the most delicate looking, correct sized flowers for what I needed today was from the Bright Bouquet set. And this is the one that makes that really cute envelope card. In fact, this is the one that I made from it. It's so pretty. And when I was looking at the florals on here, I'm like, those are perfectly sized for what I need. So that is the set that you'll see me using today. But of course, you could decorate the inside of your fairy house however you want. But that's what we're going to be using. And then, because when we bought the fairies, it was the 10th anniversary of Diamond Press, they also gave us as a little treat were these waterproof vinyl stickers. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to use some of the images from this to decorate my fairy house. So stay tuned for that here in a second. All right, so inside my fairy house, it's like the fairies are in a meadow, okay? So that's my vision of what I wanted it to look like. So we're going to cut these 2 strips, and that's what's going to go on those white crossbar pieces inside the fairy house. Okay, these are the hills for the meadows, okay? So this one is 4 1/4 inches, and it's 2 inches tall. Okay, so 4 1/4 by 2, you're going to cut one of that. Then you're going to cut 4 1/4 by 1 1/2. Okay, so that's going to create, we're going to use this to create our heels. You'll need your pair of scissors, and this is very free form. There's no drawing on here, and I'm just going to gently make it look like it's a little bit of a curve here. Okay, can you guys see that? So I just use my scissors. There's no right or wrong to this. You're just going to do it the way you want. On the larger piece, I want to make this so that I'm going to have more of a hump just in the middle. So I'm going to do it like this. Okay, so there we go. So we've got those, and this is going to be the basis for where we're going to put our decorations, and then we're going to attach this to those pieces inside the lantern. So what I have selected to use this one, this fairy, and she's going to go here. And I even took, and I've already cut these out. I didn't think you guys needed to watch painstakingly how to make all those, but these are the flowers from that Bright Bouquet set, and I made several of these. I picked the colors I wanted to use based on which fairies I was going to be using, and just I thought would work well with my papers that I had selected. This is the whole thing. So it's a stem with the 4 flowers on it. But this was too big for what I needed it for inside to put on the hills. So I took this and I made a bunch of these in different colors, and then I just cut it so that I ended up with just a smaller piece. Okay, so I am using a couple of the bigger ones to decorate on the outside of the fairy house, but on the inside on these hills, I cut it here so that I had different shaped flowers, and then I could use the other stem also. So I just trimmed it here where my thumb is, and then I ended up with 2 different kinds of flowers to be able to use on my fairy house, and different shapes. And I even further cut it so that I ended up with a piece that just looks like this. And then I'm using the purple fairy because I think I mentioned at the very beginning that I'm making purple is the favorite color of my granddaughter, and I'm making this for her birthday. And so I wanted the purple fairy to be inside my fairy box. And I took just that one strip because her eyes are kind of closed and she looks like she's just smiling and she's enjoying it. And I thought it would be fun to just add that little piece of floral here, so it's like she's holding it and smelling the flower. That's what it made me think of. So anyway, so I'm going to be using her, and I'm going to be adding, I want to add some of the flowers. I think I'm going to do this one, and then I may add a purple one over here. We're just going to see as we do this, you know, what can I fit on here? Where can I put it? And I just thought that would be really pretty. Here we go. All right, so we're going to decorate the one hill first, the one that's in the back. So this is the back element, so to speak. And I'm only going to put glue on the bottom part of this because I want this to stick up from the top of this. Okay, and then this one's going to go on the bottom. Now you decorate it however you want with whatever you want to decorate your pieces with. But this will give us that look that I'm going for. And then the fairies, they come on a plastic sheet, and I just cut around that sheet so I could get an idea, and then I'm peeling that sheet off because on the back of this we already have sticky tape. Okay, now I do not need the sticky tape on the top, so I'm just going to cover it back up again because I don't want it to stick inside of my lantern accidentally. So I'm just going to cut a piece of that clear acetate that they came on, that sheet, and trim it so it's covering that sticky part on the top one. But I left it off the bottom one. Okay, and now I'm going to lay my little fairy on here and press that down. So now I have a dimensional piece that I'm going to put on inside my lantern, and we'll do that in a minute. And then we want to decorate the bottom one, and on the bottom one I wanted to play around. I have a piece of, this is craft acetate. It's thicker. This one's really kind of flimsy that the stickers come on, but I have a piece of craft plastic acetate that is firmer. So I wanted to be able to use one of these cute stickers from the sheet. We're going to actually do a couple of them, and I'm going to peel this off because I wanted to use the mushrooms on that front one, on our front hill. So I'm just going to apply it onto the acetate sheet and rub it down really well. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim around it. And I'm just going around the outside of where the sticker is. And this is a great way to use up some of those wonderful stickers that they gave us and make it so that you can make it dimensional and pop out if you want. Okay, so now I have that cute little mushroom that I'm going to put on there, and I'm going to be able to add a pop dot on the back of this and be able to adhere it. Let's see, I want to trim that just a little bit more. Okay, so I've got this, and then we have these really cute dragonflies on here. And so I wanted to use one of the dragonflies and do the same thing. So I'm actually going to use both of the dragonflies, because I'm going to put one on the inside and one on the outside of my fairy house. Okay, and I'm just taking these off the sheet. They have a little bit of a liner. They're already cut with the plastic liner. See, they're clear, so that's really nice, but I decided that this way I can pop them up or bend them or do whatever I need to utilize them more. So I'm sticking that onto the acetate. And then there again, I'm going to do the same thing where I'm just going to cut apart. Move these apart from each other, and then I'm just going to take the scissors and go around the outside of the sticker and cut the acetate that way, so then it helps me add more dimension and it's not just flat, sticking flat onto my house. And like I said, it's clear. There's no right or wrong to this. You just want to cut around the outside of the image and get it. Okay, so there we go. I know it's really hard to see that because it's clear, but let me show you. Maybe like this you can see it. So now it's firmer, so I can use that on my project when I'm decorating. So I'm going to do the same thing to this one. Leave as much or as little as you want around the edges. I'm kind of cutting it pretty close to where the outline of the sticker is. There we go. Okay. All right, so we have these and we have this. So on this layer, the front layer, I want to add, I'm going to add, let's see, I'm going to use this one on the inside here. We're going to put this on here, and I'm just going to use a foam dot And I'm going to set it so that it's covered. Let me show you. Okay, so you won't see the foam dot under there once we stick it on, but this is going to help make it more dimensional on top of our hill. And I intentionally want it to be so it's sticking up, you know, above the hilltop there. The tops of the tops of the mushroom. And then we're going to use this, the smaller of the dragonflies, and I'm going to show you something. We're going to, actually, if you have your scoreboard out, you could score it, but I'm just going to fold over both sides along the body of that dragonfly. And we're going to make it, that way it makes it dimensional, so this part of it is now flat, and then these wings look like they're folded up more. Okay, so it's going to go like right here, and I'm just going to glue this one on. But before I do that, I'm going to add some more of my florals. Okay, so I want to add this one here. You can add as much or as little as you want. You can add multi-stems, single stems. And I want to add this one here, because I'm trying to make it look like it's a meadow that my fairy is sitting out in, is really the look that I'm going for here. And let's see, I've got, and I'll put this one down. Okay, so I've got this, and now I'm going to add some adhesive to the back of that dragonfly, just here on the back, and then I'm going to apply it here so it looks like there's a dragonfly flying into the meadow, and it will dry clear. Okay, so I'm not worried about that it looks white right now, because it will dry clear. Okay, so we're going to set this off and let it dry for a minute, and we're going to work on the outside of our house. And there again, I'm going to use some more of the florals that I cut out, the smaller, this shape, and I'm using these two. I'll show you here in a second. And then, I'm going to use another one of the dragonflies, and part of the die set is that came with the lantern. It has this really pretty flowing ribbon, so I cut out 2 pieces in white. You could do whatever color you want. I just thought the white would look nice on mine, and then I glued 2 pieces together just to give it a little more stability. And then I added some gemstones, because of course we have to have gemstones. These, I think they were from Diamond Press, or they were from Kingston Crafts, and I got a whole set with all colors, but these colors matched what I was using for my project today. And then these are the florals that you cut out from the Bright Bouquet, and it's I used this one here, and then I did the larger one and the smaller one, and I cut them in the same paper, and then I stacked them with a little pop dot in the middle, and then I just used my finger and kind of curled up the outside of the leaves. I just flipped them up, and then I added a gemstone in the center. Okay, so I created a set. I created 2 sets of these. And I also cut some of the leaves so that we have leaves to tuck in where we need to. So let's work on the outside of our box. And so this piece I'm putting here, let me move this up so you guys can see it, and I'm just adding some glue just so it'll stick, and I'm putting it here on my box. And then I have a pink one that I'm going to put over here. And this is the most fun part, right? Is decorating. So you do yours however you want it. This was my vision for my box. If you want to copy me, that's awesome. I see that as the sincerest form of flattery when you guys want to do the same types of things I'm doing. I'm just showing you this for inspiration. And I need a little more glue on here so I can get this to stick well. And I am intentionally making it so that the florals are kind of, you know, going inside where the box is, where the opening is, so it, you know, it has that look to it. Okay, and then we're going to put our fairies on. So I've decided to use this pink one. She is precious, and she has that, and I just thought that was perfect for the top of my box. So she's going to go up here, and it's already got the adhesive on it, and so isn't that cute? It's so sweet. And then I'm going to use the little one that also has a little fairy wand. Now this one's going to go down here. I'm going to put her down here towards the bottom. And there again, she also, her little wand is going to stick out. Okay, so that is this part of the opening. And then I'm going to flip this up. Well, I need to lay it down so you guys can see it. So here's the bow that I told you I made. So I'm going to add adhesive here. And I'm putting it here at the top of my house. Okay, and then I have these flowers that I created. So I have two different sets, some of the leaves and so forth, and now I'm going to add those to my fairy house. So I'm going to put a cluster of florals here. And I'm just gluing these on. And I'm making a cluster, a group of these, so I'll show you here in a minute. I used a different style for this flower. It's also on the Bright Bouquet, just because I wanted a little bit different shape to add more interest. Okay, and then I have the leaves, so then I'll figure out where I want to put leaves. So I'll probably have one sticking out over here. So I'll add some adhesive to the back. And then I think I'll tuck, let me see. Actually, I think I'm going to put both leaves. I did two colors of the leaves. I did a darker green and then a lighter green, just because I think that adds more interest. And then I'll just tuck that in there. Oh, that looks perfect. Okay, so there is the top of my fairy house decorated. Looks so cute. I'm so happy with it. And then I want to add the other dragonfly is going to go here. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm just going to fold that acetate along the body shape of the dragonfly so that it leaves the wings open a little bit, and I'll even bend this one back a little just to add a little more dimension to it. Okay, so it makes it pretty easy to bend this because it's so lightweight. And then I'm going to add some adhesive here where the color of the body shines through. And like I said, it will dry clear, so this one's going to go right here. Okay, so that will be the front of my fairy house. I'm loving how it's looking. What do you guys think? And then now that we have the other pieces done, now these florals I may put somewhere else. I haven't decided, but when I was making sets, I just made a few so then I'd have things to play with. And I made more leaves, and we'll see if I want to add it anywhere else. But now that we have these done, we're going to glue these inside of our box. Okay, so you're just going to take basically the box shape part of this. Okay, see where I drew the glue? And I'm going to add a bunch of glue on here. Alright, so we want about that much glue. And then I'm going to slip this inside here. And I'm afraid I'm going to need to turn this, so you guys may not see what I'm doing, but I'm going to lay it on that back panel that we created into our box. And push it down and hold it in place on that tab until it has grabbed it. But I've got that one in, and then the smaller one goes in the front. So we're going to do the same thing where we're just going to add the glue. I'm going to carefully grab this down here, and then I'm going to apply this one to the front panel. So there is the inside of our fairy box, and let's turn our light on and see how precious that looks. It's so cute. Can you see it? All lit up, decorated. This is precious. I'm so happy with the way it turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me put this together. If you have any questions, please let me know. I love answering your questions. Be sure and follow me over on YouTube because I love creating tutorial videos, and I will be doing a whole series on all the different diamond press sets that I purchase, and I have a bunch coming from the recent HSN show, so I'll have a lot more coming up here real soon, and I hope you guys have a great day, and thank you so much.